So what we'll do, I guess we'll sue them. Let's sue them.
All of these liars will be sued after the election is over.
I actually told my lawyers, I said, sue him anyway. He's got immunity, but they can't mean immunity for that. I said, sue him anyway, even if we lose, the American public will understand.
If there's one thing we know to be true about Donald Trump, it's that he loves to sue. Over the course of his career, Trump has been involved in an astronomical amount of lawsuits. USA Today counted 4,095, and that was before he was elected president. They range from suits against the network Univision for saying it would not air Trump's Miss Universe pageants after his comments about Mexicans being rapists, to suing his ex-wife Ivana for talking too much about details related to his finances. He even sued the country of Scotland for building an offshore wind farm next to one of his hotels. True story. But today, Donald Trump's weird obsession with lawsuits finally backfired. The former president was hit with a fine of almost $1 million for a lawsuit he filed against Hillary Clinton, alleging that she, along with the Democratic National Committee, orchestrated a malicious conspiracy to investigate his campaign's ties to Russia and rigging the election in Clinton's favor, even though he literally won that election. It's safe to assume Trump was hoping for Southern District of Florida Judge Eileen Cannon to oversee the case, given her track record with the classified documents investigation. But instead, he got Judge Donald Middlebrook, who, let's just say, did not hold back. Writing in a searing 46-page judgment last night, Mr. Trump is a prolific and sophisticated litigant who is repeatedly using the courts to seek revenge on political adversaries. He is the mastermind of strategic abuse of the judicial process, and he cannot be seen as a litigant blindly following the advice of a lawyer. He knew full well the impact of his actions. Well, Trump must have gotten the message loud and clear, because this morning he dropped another lawsuit he filed in Florida before the same judge against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Joining me now is David Cay Johnston, founder of DCReport.org and author of The Big Cheat, and Tristan Snell, former New York Assistant Attorney General and lead investigator in the Trump University probe. David Cay Johnston, you've been covering Trump for a long time. Is this the first intelligent legal thing he's ever done, backing away from the New York lawsuit?
I don't recall anything like this before, and I'm actually surprised it's taken judges this long, because Donald makes frivolous arguments. And one of the things I tell my law students at Syracuse University is, if a judge calls your argument frivolous, he is effectively, or she is effectively saying, you're a drunk in a bar.
That kind of sounds accurate. Tristan Snell, this is what Judge Middlebrook did, going after Donald Trump for actually using his lawsuits as a way to raise money. Frivolous lawsuits should not be used as a vehicle for fundraising or fodder for rallies or social media. Mr. Trump is using the courts as a stage set for political theater and grievance. This behavior interferes with the ability of the judiciary to perform its constitutional duty. You know, the courts are something that one thinks we should take seriously, but Trump has never taken them seriously. He's, brushed off subpoenas. He's used, as the judge said, lawsuits as theater and as ways to get himself attention. Is this tactic finally kind of running out of gas for him? And if that is the case, could it trickle down to the people who've mimicked him in his camp?
This could be a way for us to finally get Donald Trump to pay his fair share in taxes. He's paying more in court fines than he's ever paid in taxes anytime recently. So maybe this will have some salutary impact. I think he's going to keep doing it as long as he can raise money off of it. As long as the money he's raising, outstrips the amount that he's getting fined, he's going to be turning a profit in his head. I think they're going to need to sanction him more, because it is ridiculous. This is a waste of judicial resources, and the courts are not a place for him to pursue his political vendettas, plain and simple.
Well, and also his lawyers, by and large, have humiliated themselves and made a mockery of the court system. These people are all now considered legal jokes if they still even have the right to practice. But, just to go through some of the old Trump lawsuits, David Cay Johnston, he sued Bill Maher in 2013 for joking on The Tonight Show that he'd give Trump $5 million if he could prove that his father was not an orangutan. In 1984, he sued the Chicago Tribune for a column suggesting the Sears Tower in Chicago would remain the world's tallest building, besides Trump planned to build a taller structure. He sued Palm Beach, Florida in 2006 after he was cited for violating zoning codes for flying this giant American flag. I could go on and on and on. He sued the Eastern Pequot tribe in 2003, a Native American tribe of less than 1,000 people in Connecticut, claiming he spent $10 million helping to promote the tribe's land in exchange for the right to negotiate the casino agreement. Like, I mean, you could just go through it and they get more and more ridiculous. Has he ever won any of these crazy suits?
The crazy ones, I don't think so. He has lost some very clear ones. The one against my former New York Times colleague Tim O'Brien over the size of his fortune, which is nowhere near what Donald claims. And he's had others he dropped or walked away from because it was clear he was going to use them. But understand, Donald uses this strategically. The last time he and I spoke, he called me at home during the election, the 2016 election, and said, wouldn't answer my questions about the extraordinary favors he did for a major international cocaine trafficker he'd been doing business with for years. And he said, you know, I'm going to sue you. And I said, well, Donald, if you have a case, bring your case. Do you have a case? And he says, it doesn't matter. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to ruin you. And that's what he does to people. He does it, and a lot of people back off because of this. Been an effective strategy to shield him. And a lot of news organizations have been very tempered in what they reported because of his litigation threats.
Yep. You know who's not tempered? Jack Smith, because he really doesn't care.